Hello everybody, I am Dondi.
I'm Titanya.
And I'm Donna, their mom.
We are sitting in a very, very special place, and you might even hear an echo in our voices because we are in the sanctuary of an old church in Ashland, Oregon from the turn of the century that Mom purchased in 1980, and we made it our home. But today we're going to talk to you about the journey of leaving San Diego, California, coming to Ashland, Oregon, living in this church, and how the 5 elements helped us in that journey of Mom being divorced, Tanya.
I was about 14?
Yeah.
No, 14 years old, yeah.
Yeah, and I was 11.
Oh, and I wanted to get out of San Diego before Tanya fell in love because I figured if at 14, I'd better do it fast because she might fall in love and I'd never get out of San Diego.
And there was a lot of drugs in the school.
And there were a lot of
You
drugs
wanted
in
to
the
get
school,
away
yes.
from.
Yes, yes.
But another reason we left San Diego is because there was a divorce. We left our dad and we got in a car,
Yes.
and we started driving north, and 777 miles later we were out of gas, out of food, and out of the only jar of peanut butter that we had. It was completely empty. And you have a great tale of coming over the California-Oregon border and
Yeah.
what happened, because we didn't mean to stay in Ashland. We just ran out of gas and food and money. So talk about coming over.
Well, I want to say I wanted to find a little town because we had been in Fiji where life was simple, and I wanted a simpler town where there wouldn't be drugs and it would be just, juicy and wonderful. And so we were coming over the, what was it called? The Cascades?
border, yeah.
Siskiyous.
The Siskiyous, and a song was playing on the radio called "I Want to Find Me a Funky Town," and we were out of gas and cruising, trying to coast into town. It was a lot easier for me as an adult because everybody in Ashland I resonated with. It was like the geographical counterpart to who I was. But it wasn't true about the kids. They were weird coming from California.
And the kids who were here in Southern Oregon were not used to California girls, and we got ostracized and bullied, and it was incredibly challenging. And we used this sanctuary to feel better. We roller skated, we practiced our belly dancing. We had been studying dance since we were 4 years old, so we'd have belly dance classes.
But those belly dance classes were trade from Mom, who worked on our first belly dance teacher, and she didn't have any money, so Mom would trade all of her sessions for vegetables because we couldn't afford anything. Vegetables and sewing, well, you were the sewer of the family, but things that clothes, hand-me-downs, anything, and one of them was belly dance classes.
And the truth is, I took the first belly dance class with them, and if I'd have stuck with it, I might have been a belly dancer.
A professional like us, because it really shaped our career. That those trading classes really shaped us, who became professional dancers all over the world.
And it really shaped us with our understanding of the 5 elements, because that is when you started telling us, you were getting a boyfriend. I wasn't understanding the divorce, and you were explaining to us the different types of water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, which are the 5 elements. And this is where it all began.
She was teaching classes here in this room, and so some of our great practitioners are part of that. That's way true. Back when, in the 80s, when we were in high school and she was teaching classes here, they're now part of our team.
I want to back up just a little bit and say about their dad. Their dad was a wood fire, And that was just too much for me. I mean, it had nothing to do with it. I loved him, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to raise my kids in that energy, because a wood fire is absolute, and this is how we do it, and it's not going to be any other way. And he was also fire, which made me laugh. So the laughter of the fire was where we resonated. But I knew I had to go. I just knew. So.
And you were an earth, and that is an
earth fire.
So that's a control for wood,
Yes.
and so as an earth, you could feel like you were a little bit weaker than that other sex that can find their words and can pinpoint exactly what is happening and point the finger at you.
That's exactly right. As earth, I would lose my words, and I couldn't remember what was my truth. So,
and I think one of the things you always say to us, especially for me, because I'm an earth, you are too, but not one of your first, is that you didn't want to have the patterns repeat themselves with me.
That's exactly right. I mean, I was very concerned about Tanya. Not nearly as concerned about Dondi, because she's a wood also. And I knew that Tanya it's hard for a wood to tell you exactly what's wrong with you and what you need to do.
And then you believe it as an earth. You go, oh, right, that is me. Okay, I'll try to do better.
So we left, and just a funny thing on the way up is that we weren't 3 miles out past our house when we had everything tied to the top of our car, and everything flew off our car
onto the freeway.
Suitcases, massage table, our toiletries opened up, and shampoo bottles were rolling down the freeway, and cars were dodging them. This was our whole life on the top of an old Ford Pinto.
And here's something, and something was rolling down the street, and it came right next to the car. I opened the door to pick it up, this book, and where it was open to it just said, roll with the punches. And it was very, very good. But my ex-husband, he wasn't ex yet.
We had just left Dad.
Yeah.
I mean, we just left him like 20 minutes earlier. This was a huge, huge, huge deal. And who came to help us?
The first person. He said, I knew this would happen to you.
And I'd like to say a couple of things on this, because we're talking about the 5 elements today. And it's really important to know about these different types of people. So as you said, Dad was a wood type. And wood types are very direct. They're described as assertive and aggressive, and they can be harsh. However, every single element has a challenging side, which I just described to you, and a benevolent side, a beautiful side. And our dad was so kind that even though he knew we were leaving him,
which broke his heart,
his wife and daughters, he came and helped us put everything on the car and say farewell to us.
Woods are kind. Woods are very kind, and they'll help you in a fix. They'll come to your rescue, even if it's like, you know, they don't really like that person so much. They've done something, but it's like, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I often say to people when they say to me, well, how have the 5 elements helped you in your life? And oh my gosh, they have helped us in every single aspect of our lives. But one of the big pieces for me is that in the late 70s, early 80s, most of our friends had parents who had divorced. And I feel like, not that I sailed through it, because divorce is difficult for everybody, but I understood it so much better, with more clarity, even at my young age of 11 and 12, because I knew Mom was an earth fire and Dad was a wood. And primarily earth and wood when they were together, which are 2 elements that are going to have challenges. And when Mom started explaining that to us and telling us about how these two elements often clash, then I didn't have to blame Mom or blame Dad or blame anybody. I got it.
Yes.
So that was a really big piece. So
into Ashland. We come to Ashland. This is our town, and I knew we would be taken care of and we would be guided. And so, and then very quickly we wanted to find a place to live, and I didn't want to rent. I wanted to buy a home, and I would borrow money from my folks, and that's what I did. I borrowed money from my folks, and of all things, we drove by a church, an old Methodist church that was built at the turn of the last century, and I got very excited.
Well, it was finished in 1908, but it started being built in the late 1800s.
I was very excited about it, and the energy was so good, and I thought, what a great home that would be.
And it was cheap, because in 1980, no one wanted a church. Today, people are buying schoolhouses and churches, and they think it's fun and funky, but it sat here at a very low price.
Yes, I started teaching classes here, and it was wonderful. And in the beginning, there were very few people, but they started growing and growing, and it was wonderful.
And didn't you call it energy kinesiology?
Yes, I did. I called it energy kinesiology because kinesiology is a way of energy testing. And it's some people call it muscle testing, some people call it energy testing. And so I called it energy kinesiology, and I even, what's the word you do to it? When you
copyright, trademark.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And so that's what I taught.
And let me just say real fast, because some of you watching might not realize Mom's background, even though here in Ashland, Oregon at the church, it really started coming into a business for you.
Yeah.
You had been teaching classes in San Diego. Mom has been able to see energies since birth, and she healed herself of many ailments, including multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, so her classes started in the end of the 70s.
Yes.
Down there.
Yes, but when she came up, you really started to hone it into something that other people could do for themselves.
Yes.
It's not just that, a person who can see energy can heal themselves. You can heal yourselves. And we use the 5 elements to do that as well. But just to give a little
taught
background.
people how to do it for themselves. And first, how to see themselves. What element were they? And it was really, really fun. I met 2 people at the time who took classes from me. And one was a man, Jeff Wyden, and he was a doctor in town, a podiatrist, and he was a wood fire, and the best. Every element has the good side and the bad side. His was good. He was nothing but good,
and in the ways that he was good, his wood would come out, and he was a very strong advocate for people.
Yes.
So in those early years, you had divorced Dad, Tanya and I were sort of on our own, trying to find our way, and Jeff really came in and took care of us, which is what oftentimes the wood element does.
It was extraordinary. It was a lifesaver. And also, as he was secondary was water, which we could talk into the night and laugh and talk ideas, and it was wonderful. So it was both wood and wood and water.
And he had a little fire too.
I'm going to tell you one more friend. Also, their best friend was a woman named Karen Timberlake, and she made me laugh. She was so fire. She was the fullest fire I'd ever met in my life. Her secondary was wood, so she was adamant also. And she made me laugh, and she made me laugh about leaving my husband. She made me laugh about, I was just starting a boyfriend down there. And I left him because I thought it was too soon. And I told him a couple of bad things about him, and she just was gonna, she had all these angers about him, which made me laugh so hard. So I got free.
Because of a fire who helped you release from that, and a wood.
Exactly. The fire just made me laugh about everything. So
if you're getting the picture, the 5 elements helped us navigate a really challenging time coming to Oregon, and Titanya being in the high school, me being in the junior high. Do you want to tell a story? Because you had 2 boyfriends who were so opposite than each other, and I'm not sure you would have had the understanding of them if it weren't for the 5 elements.
Yeah, and the 5 elements helped me so much, both of us, with our relationships throughout all of the years. But when we were starting out, it was a really wonderful tool to look at our boyfriends. And my very first boyfriend, who I was talking about, he was the jokester, and as he walked, he had a little bit of a bop, like he was listening to music in his head all the time. He loved music, but he was a fast talker. He was a jokester of the school, and later on he became a DJ of Southern Oregon. And anyways, so he just took my heart, and I was really, really madly in love with him. And then I had a boyfriend later on who was complete opposite of him. And this one was my friend, but this one was much more of a water type. And what happened, just like Jeff Whiten, who you were talking about, he would allow me to be comfortable in order to talk. My other boyfriend had very fast words and talking, and he would want me to talk, but I couldn't get any words in edgewise. And then he had the greatest of woods. His secondary was wood, so he had great words, and I felt like I was always losing my words. And so being shy, I couldn't find who I was and what my feelings were. I'm also an empath too, which I didn't realize until later. So very sensitive and taking on his energy much more than my own, and not really understanding where I was because I was a teenager with hormones. But this other guy was water, and he would be comfortable enough for me to speak to him. And so we went really deep in conversation. That was wonderful. And so that was a difference between the two, and it really made me really understand the elements in a different way.
And it's important to understand that it's nobody's fault that they are one way or the other. You are born in your element, and that's where you're going to evolve and grow, through your element. And so, yeah.
But interestingly enough, my boyfriend now is very water, and because I am also fire, he can douse my water when I'm so excited about something, and I'm so excited to do something, and he will look at all the possibilities of the safety of that particular situation. And somehow just, I want him to be excited first and then tell me about the safety reasons about everything, or all the cautions. And that can also be difficult. And so later that first and second boyfriend, the second boyfriend, really, it was hard to be with him having so much fire. The first one filled my fire because we were on the same wavelength and made me laugh. But the second one, it was hard being an earth second, so I'm fire and earth, and that water can just really douse my fire when I'm excited.
Yeah, just think about a fire, an actual fire. You throw water on the fire, so the fire goes out. And that's what happens to human beings. Sometimes when you're with the water, it'll just douse your fire.
And sometimes when you're so fiery and you can't think and you're very, very confused, sometimes you say, put water on my head and it'll revive us.
It's true. My present husband, it was wonderful. When I get out of sorts and maybe just a little anxious or something, I'll say to him, put a little water on my head. And I'll suddenly, oh, thank you.
So I had a boyfriend. I'll tell a quick boyfriend story because it is about this, like I said before, this challenge and this wonderful side. Every element has it, every element. No one gets out free. But it was a few years later, I was in my early 20s, and we were all coming back to visit Ashland because we had been traveling. We travel around the world for a living. So we all came back and I brought that boyfriend. And there were so many great things about him. He was very, very, very water. So he was a deep thinker. We could have these incredibly long, in-depth conversations about anything, and we would wax poetically and solve all the problems of the world, but just in our heads, because that's what waters do. However, I brought him up here, and I didn't understand why he was such low energy. He was falling asleep in the afternoons. We were having these great conversations, you two with your fire, and it was so energetic and so exciting. And there he was, falling asleep. And you reminded me, because you tend to forget.
You're probably very embarrassed
I
at this
was
moment.
embarrassed, and I was mad, and I didn't even want him around anymore. I brought him on the family trip. This was an honor. He should have honored this position. It was a privilege for him to be with us. And then you reminded me, but Dondi, he's a water. Of course he's going to have lower energy in the afternoon. And we've been dragging him around on all of these activities. And of course, with two fires being so excited, it's going to overwhelm him. And waters do get overwhelmed. And if you know this about yourself, that it's not your fault. If you are a water and you see, oh, this is in my element, that I don't have the same energy reserves as a fire does, then that's going to help you. The 5 elements is a journey of discovery all the time.
All the
time we still discover things.
Do you know that I have understood this slowly over the years from the time I was very little, and I still am learning. I am still learning because it is part of the magic of life and also the understanding of life. So that you can be with people that are very different than you and not judge them and like them very much.
Yes. I think you should tell about your husband who is a metal, because we haven't talked about that. And one of the reasons you kind of had to separate from him for a while when we were coming up here to Oregon.
I've got a great husband, but I left him also. He was a brand new boyfriend. And I came up and I knew that this was not good. And
you also wanted to be with us. You wanted to.
I wanted to
really
just have time with the girls and not another guy. Please, not another guy. And he was a young metal, which means he really didn't know what he was doing. And he was very intellectual, so he was very smart, but not when it came to human relationships. And sometimes metals are that way. They are not good with relationships. So he finally, we left him, and he finally did come up here, and it took him time. But I guess I want to say that he's gotten better and better and better over the years, and that can be especially, he understands the elements, I do. So he has utter patience with how I am, and I have patience with him. And he has helped me be more organized, more efficient, because I wasn't any of those. I've helped him to laugh more and have fun, and just, I don't know, we're on the same wavelength now, but we weren't. So it's really valuable to know that human beings who are on different elements can learn, but you got to understand the elements to do that.
And your husband, you wouldn't have this amazing organization without him.
That's
because
right.
of the metal. We
That's
wouldn't be
right.
where we were. We'd still be in this church. We'd
Yes.
still be teaching small
teaching.
classes.
Yes, yes, yes. It would have been a very different experience. Yeah, our whole lives changed because I took a chance on an element that was different than me and knew that I wanted to learn, and he wanted to learn. And oh, it's so good now. It's so good. So that's important.
And that is often what happens with metals and woods. They are the ones who start businesses. They are the ones who are organized. They are the ones who see the future goals and meet them. And when you understand the 5 elements, you can choose who you want in your life. You can choose who your friends are. I love fires, and I know I need more fires around my life. When I know that in me, I can just hang out with Mom or Tanya, or I can find ways to be around more fires. But before we go, and if you're just joining us, we're in the sanctuary of our church, which is our home in Ashland, Oregon. It's why you hear an echo. And we're talking about the 5 elements today. But before we go, let's mention briefly that it is also a health system. And you can learn about what you should be eating for your element, what is going to bring more health to your organs, what is going to be the magical balance that balances your life. That's all about the 5 elements. Do you want to touch on that briefly? And you too, Tanya, if you want to.
Oh, that's really important. 5 elements affects everything in life. That is your food, your health. It's like, okay, I'm an earth element, earth and fire. And the problems I have in my health are between fire and earth, because that's my strength and it's my weakness. And so I can get very, very spun out. And I've also had, which is an imbalance between fire and earth. And I've also, I've had hypoglycemia all my life because I control it now. I control it with energy medicine. But gosh, it used to be really hard because spleen meridian is, if you don't eat at the right time and the right foods, I mean, you can get hypoglycemia. And so it's incredibly important.
Yes, and through the 5 elements, you learn what foods to eat.
Yes.
You learn about the time of day that's best for you. And I'll just say, as a wood, I often felt guilty because I was a night owl. I never sleepy until 2 or 3 a.m., but then I would want to sleep in the next day till 11 or noon or 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and that's considered very lazy. I felt so happy when I learned that is a wood's rhythm.
Yes.
A strong wood is usually up at night, at midnight and 1 and 2, and they usually sleep through the morning hours, and they don't have as much energy if they have to wake up early for work or their family. They aren't their best. Knowing that changed everything for me,
Yes.
because I didn't have to walk around with this guilt that I was somehow different than other people or lazy because I slept in.
Yeah, that is really important. I, and Tanya also, as a fire earth, fire, if you're not in bed by 11 o'clock at night, it can just wipe you out.
Adrenals.
Your adrenals, it can wipe your adrenals out. So it's like really important, and I like to get up in the morning during earth time, which is between 7 and 11. Is that right? 7 and 11. Yes.
And you mentioned adrenals. It's important to know that each element is sort of governed by different parts of the body. So a wood person, you know, can do things to help their liver and their gallbladder. And the metal person can do things to help their lungs and their large intestine, these organs that have more susceptibility. So
one of the things I want to say about the rhythms is it's really nice to know for myself when you were talking about sleeping in and thinking it was lazy, but then realizing, oh, it's part of my element. For me, one of the things that I feel is, as an earth, I always need my earth time. I need a rhythm that people aren't rushing me. People really need me to figure out that choice or that decision on my own, because if I'm rushed, I will make a bad decision, and then later on, they will feel mad at me because I've changed my decision. And so that, to me, has been really ruling my life, and I could even say, you need to allow this time, and I could feel good because as an earth, we're not very good with boundaries, but yet I can say, I need my time on this. I need this time. And also, as an earth, if you're a strong earth like I am, I need to be in the country. I do not like cities. I get really frantic and really just frazzled in a city. I cannot think. I need to be around trees and earth and nature, and that's where I thrive. And so it's really nice to know for your children what your children like in the way of where they need to be in order to thrive as well, because every single element is connected to a different environment too. It really helps knowing this for your children, for your parents, for your friends, all relationships.
Yes. It's so important. In our organization, Inner Source, often there are decisions to be made, and often they need the decision just like that. Give me the decision. Well, I am earth and fire, and as an earth, I can't do that. And so we have a saying in Inner Source that I imagine I have a strawberry patch, and I want to go sit out in a strawberry patch and just be, and then let that answer come up. And I need time, just like Tanya. We need time.
But what's wonderful when you know about the elements, you can help each other out. And I'm always helping my mom out because we're the same elements. I've said, Mom, this is why you do what you do, and this is why people need to know this about you. And so I'm constantly kind of giving my voice about the elements. And for you, when you're like down and out about something that you've gotten really mad at somebody for and saying, you know, oh my God, I shouldn't have yelled at that person or whatever. And then I could tell you something about, you know, I see how your brain is working here. I see why you've done this. I wouldn't do it, but I see why you
see how a wood would, because you understand. And the same thing when our father died, I went really deep into probably a mix of wood and water, but I was really, really, really stuck. Your fire helped me get unstuck, because fires, even in a serious situation, can find the joy. And that's one of the most beautiful things about a fire. And you helped me find the joy again. So we are so excited for you to take our free class. This was just a little ditty we were doing because we're here in Ashland, and we wanted to come into the sanctuary and show all of you. So many of you ask, well, where did Eden Energy Medicine begin? Where did Eden Method begin? Well, it began right here. So we wanted to show you that. We want to really just let you know that the 5 elements are the best. Yes. They are the best. They're going to help you in every aspect of your life. And we have a free class that you can take. You'll see the link and you can click on that. And if you stay with us, I think we should walk out of the church, show them the graveyard. We'll show you the graveyard. And then we'll wrap this up. And we're so happy you're with us.
Yeah, we want you to see our church. You want to see our atmosphere, our world.
Our first beginnings.
Our beginnings. Our beginnings.
And really where Titanya and I started really diving into the 5 elements, and we feel we would not be the people we are today. We would not have the compassion for people we have today without the 5
I
elements.
wanted to say something about that. Both the girls, when we came here, they were ostracized. They were treated like something was really weird with them and people didn't want to be friends. And it really helped to understand with each one of those people, you know, the element they were. And so very often people at a young stage of the element. And as they grow, I don't know, they grow through their element and can see better. And that's what woods do. They see better as they age, and earths learn their not necessarily boundaries, but they learn discernment and when to say yes and when to say no.
It's so important you said that, Mom, because so many of you are parents and so many of you are scared for your children that they're going to be bullied and that they're going to be bowled over. And I came to a place where not only I could stand up to bullies, but I understood the bullies. How do you ever have a system where you actually understand why the bullies are bullying? And I didn't have the blame for them, and I was able to be in my own power, my own truth, but I didn't have the blame for them that I spent years thinking about. Wasn't like that because I had the 5 elements.
You didn't have to continue thinking about it and hurting about it and not knowing what to do and losing your power.
Yes. So shall we show them the graveyard?
Yeah.
Okay, stay with us. So here we are in the sanctuary. I'm going to show what it's like now. It's a dojo. And they do Aikido in here. And there's Titanya and Mom. And we're going to take you across the street. Hi, Mom.
And we put in those big windows at the very top because they had been taken out years ago.
All right. And so we would walk out of our church. And here's the graveyard across the street. Here's East Main, the front of our church. We spent a lot of time in this graveyard, didn't we, Tanya?
Yeah, this is also a kind of a major street, East Main in Ashland.
Let's cross. We'll go to the graveyard where we ate and hung out with friends and listened to music and talked about the 5 elements. Yay! Our beautiful town. The first graves were dug here in the 1860s. And now we'll show you our church from this view. There it is. All right, thank you everybody. Go take the free class. Bye-bye.